very important as well. How about we take 3 rounds of people's lives and things like that. That's why I chose the other path, which is to wait my time out, return better, and win within the parliamentarian system, which might be slower, but more sustainable. In a way that, yes, I'll keep winning. The first time I got 80, the second time I got 152, next time I'm gonna get 200 and 250. If I keep winning gradually, it will eventually reach a pivot point that finally the time of change has come from within. Yeah.
You mentioned civil society fatigue, and I think that might be also happening in Indonesia. Although the civil society keep lighting up each other's spirit in some ways, but political cynicism toward politicians and governments is very deep among Indonesian public and even younger generation. You mentioned the hashtag of Kabur aja dulu, meaning go abroad, and secondly Indonesia gelap the dark Indonesia, and I think it has gotten to a point where this cynicism is towards politicians and government in general. And you in Thailand capture most votes. You earn the trust of the people, and people see that they can rely on you. What would be your answer for the politicians here and the governments here if they ask for your advice how to earn trust from the people?
Consistency and transparency. It's very easy. I mean, if you are consistent with your message, and if you're transparent in your decision, you might not come to the answer right away, but you're very transparent in the way you think and the way you frame your argument, and you're accountable to your words. I feel like that's essentially, the element of trust. Even within a smaller micro, if you're transparent with the way you think and how you come about solutions, I think that would be my advice to governments, that, they keep the voters informed, and that would be the only way you gain trust. But if there's lack of political integrity and lack of political accountability, that's part of something that you have to live up to the burden of not being trusted by the voters, because you deserve it.
How would you define a good leader in today's era?
As of now, I feel like you have to be a consensus between international politics and domestic politics. You have to be a consensus between the public and private sector. And you have to be the consensus with people who come before you and people who come after you. You have to have humility when praised and the ability to adapt when criticized. But I feel like the world is coming to a new world order, and countries are operating on the old consensus. Old consensus when there's a new normal. So that's why I feel like the leader, or that's actually how I differentiated myself from other candidates also. I tell them, I have some international background, but I also have rural backgrounds in Thailand. I have the ability to speak to the rice growers or the rubber plantation or the SMEs. I also understand the private sector and also the public sector. When the private sector requires regulatory guillotine from the public sector, I understand exactly what they're talking about. If I'm the policy maker, then I understand that this kind of policies, the private sector might not be happy. And then at the age of 44, I'm in the middle of people who have come before me, which I will ask for their experience so that I have the energy to keep pushing this region forward. But then I also understand the people who are the first-time voters, which is not so far from me, I hope. And I also understand what they are looking for as well, because the sentiment of the era is very different from people who are 20 years older than me and 20 years younger than me. So because of that, I feel like that's the kind of the leader that the world needs at the moment, and that's what I strive to be. I'm not perfect yet, but that's what I strive to be, the consensus of the new consensus for the new normal of the people.
One of the reasons why we ask what's your definition of a good leader is when the leadership that rose to power today, definitely they have gone through these campaigns, and they had to of course, like you said, they have to have these transactions and so on, and sometimes to a point where they no longer have the autonomy to make decisions, and they're no longer serving the people, but serving a master, or master with the S masters. And the younger generation also, you said how many questions coming, such as how to form a political party and how much does it cost to run. But really, if we decide to run today, let's say some half of this room, let's say they want to run for office and make themselves a candidate, what they think of would be definitely a manipulated system in a way.
So the answer to that is your campaign finance. After that is called the campaign management. It has to be a lean campaign management so that your campaign finance is also lean. And that's why you don't need to get big grants from big corporates that can call you, right before you vote in the National Assembly. And what I call how we came about the campaign management is precision politics. We use a lot of data, we use a lot of technology that allows us to survive on average donation of about $15. So it's all based from taxpayers' money. We do some merchandising. We do a lot of party membership grassroots, which is about $70. So either because of that, we didn't use a lot of money. My competitor said, if you run elections for 100 times, it wouldn't be the same cost that I spent. So because of that, precision, that kind of data-driven, that the incumbents or the older politicians or the older competitor party wouldn't know how to do, we do know how to do it. So that's why we owe no one nothing. And when you owe no one nothing, that means you are a very happy politician, because it's such a glum and gruesome occupation is to be a politician that has to listen to someone else and cannot vote your conscience. And I think that's something that is the worst job in the world, I guess. So because of the way we manage the campaigns and things like that, that's why we were able to maintain a political autonomy for the time during that. I think that's also the reason why they are really scared of us, because we're ready for elections any day. If there's a snap election tomorrow, we're ready. But for them, they have to raise funds first, right? And then because we answer to nobody, and that's why they felt like there's no leash. It's a long leash to get us back, and maybe the military or the monopolies were not were a bit paranoid about this.
As if it's very rare and very wow, it's such an achievement when it's supposed to be a normal thing, that anyone can run and anyone can be a leader as long as they have the quality and that they have the effort and they have capability and credibility. But we see that it's not happening here.
I see. So barrier to entry politics for someone with a common last name might not be able to enter politics.
That's one thing, and eventually good leadership of the government in general.
I think that there's a structural issue there, especially happening in ASEAN. Back in the days, with probably when I was young in ambassador's time, there's dynastic politics and proxy leadership, things like this. With the Bush, with the Trudeau, with the Abe, and things with the Kennedys, and that was also something that was going on around the world, but apparently it's becoming quite popular over here in Southeast Asia, whether it's the Philippines, whether it's Thailand, whether it's Indonesia, whether it's Laos, even, so I feel like that's really part of my mission back at Harvard, when I want to groom next-gen leaders so that they can run for office without breaking their bank account or compromise their values. And I think it's really also within our control. There's some parts that is out of our control. It might take a collective effort to fix it, like maybe a constitution or the electoral laws and things like that. But it's really within our control, in the sense that if we learn our political identity, asking questions such as why I want to run for office, and why for this political party, and why now is the time and not next time. Those are the things that will become your stop speech. It will become your political identity that says that, my name is this, I want to run for office because I want to change this, and I want to run for this party because this party aligns with me, and now I'm ready because of so on and so on, And once you have that identity, you'll be able to communicate very effectively. You'll be able to raise some funds very easily also with this opening environment nowadays, unlike 40 years ago, for example. So there's something within your control to, go over the barrier. And I think there's many institutions around this region, as well as in Japan, in Korea, in America, that is willing to provide you the pathway to politics and have that kind of future candidates program. At least I'm one. I mean, that's how I spend my time with someone who wants to be a mayor in Japan. It comes with, okay, you and me, we craft the campaign strategy together. So how many people in your district? If you look at the previous count, where is the strong base? What's your average age of this town? Yeah, are they more farmers or they're more agriculture? Where do you prioritize? Who is a potential donor for your campaigns? Those are the things that are within control. But if you don't even know, because there's lots of times people who want to run for public office is just because of that prestige that you have, that will die down very, very quickly, you know. But if you know exactly why you want to run for public office, you want to run because you think Indonesia can and you can. And once you do that, you want to get rid of corruption, or you want to introduce clean coal, or you want to introduce green climate crisis, or take care of the transboundary pollution. I mean, it's so clear that you wanted to do something with your power when you do a communication strategy, when you do a fundraising strategy, when you do a volunteer management strategy. The articulation is clear, and then it becomes possible. But if you keep saying, you know, it's within this country, if you don't have the certain last name of, you know, dynastic politics, you know, it's going to be very hard for you to do it. Then yeah, it's going to be like that because the world is not fair. There's always a structural barrier, but there's some behavioral amendment of yourself that you can finally, you know, step up and finally climb over. You know, and our party in Thailand is very clear. 152 MPs, so without any big bank accounts. Maybe several of them are well off from the parents, but majority could be a Grab driver. We have one, and we have one who's a laborer in a textile company. We have one that is indigenous people up in Chiang Mai, and they become MPs. Yeah, so we figured it out pretty much, and I'm very happy to help you guys if you want to.
I think we also do have angkot driver, for instance. Okay, I'll open the floor for questions. I'll give the first opportunity for Ambassador Sumadi.
Thank you very much for the privilege, Tierney. I have two questions, very basic question. One is, in any country you have government or leaders.
Part of the question is freedom, liberty, and fraternity to begin with in order for you to become democratic. And the responsibility of the people is definitely keep your representative accountable. So go out to vote is something that is very important. It's not always the case because if you look at the overall voting turnout around the world, it's dropping like crazy. From average of about 65% of global voting turnout, last year it went down to about 50-something. And if you look at Britain, if you look at Japan, you know, even developing countries or developed countries, the voting turnout is lower and lower and lower. In Thailand, during my case, we won because it was the highest voting turnout in the history of Thailand, 78%. So if people felt like they have to use their rights and keep the government accountable through democratic means, that's essentially the role of the citizen. Obviously, you have to be happy, work hard, and pay taxes, but the trust of the government that returns to the people, that they feel comfortable, that they want to be part of the contribution to the country fiscal space is also